Welcome, everyone. It's Angelo Robles, and welcome to Family Office TV. Dr. Craig Kaplan has been researching AI, intelligence systems, since the 1980s, and he's also a retired hedge fund manager. In this segment, Kaplan provides an overview of the field of AI, including the most recent developments, including progress in areas like large language models, AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, and safe superintelligence. Welcome back, Dr. Craig Kaplan.
Angelo, terrific to be back with you again and talking about my favorite subject, which is AI.
How has AI changed since you began working in the field, Dr. Kaplan, back in the 1980s?
So if you step back and look at the sort of, 50-year view, there was symbolic AI where you program it and tell it exactly what to do. And then there was machine learning where it learns. The problem with machine learning is it's not exactly clear what the machine has learned and how it's going to behave. So it's unpredictable and it's a little bit of a black box. And so we'll talk more about it, but I think there's a way to bring both of these approaches together, which is kind of where the field's going now.
What are some of the current challenges facing what I guess I would define as AI?
One of the major challenges is we have to get greater transparency and we have to increase the reliability and trustworthiness of these systems.
Okay, it may not happen in a week. It's not going to take years.
You can imagine that in 10 years, we'll have systems that are more than 1,000 times more powerful. And I think what's happening now is people are realizing that we're going to need more symbolic reasoning and more planning, more kinds of thought that's more sequential and logical and that can handle multi-step problem solving, the kinds of things that humans do. And related to that is a uptick in interest in a topic that's been around for a while, but now is becoming very, very hot. And that is AI agents, where these programs actually have autonomy and can sort of act as agents on your behalf.
One of the most frequent questions I get, and I'm sure you get as well, is it a bubble and is it overhyped?
Greed and fear have their cycle. The underlying technology is real and incredibly transformative. I would say more powerful than any innovation I've ever seen in my lifetime or that I can really think of, even going back in history.
Recently, there has been a lot of tweets and media coverage about the dangers of AI, as well as AI optimism. Where do you stand as more of an AI doomer or boomer?
If you ask me for my odds, I'd say, it's 80 to 90% that it's all going to be great. And this is going to be the best thing that's ever happened to humankind. But there is this 10 to 20% chance that it could be really bad to the point of actually even wiping everyone out. And when you think about how bad the bad part is, even if the probability was very low, like 1% or 0.1%, it's too high. You can argue about what the relative risks are. You could argue about whether we should pause it or not. None of that matters. People are going to go forward. What we need to do is design it to be safe. It's that simple. Design it to be safe. And it can be designed to be much safer than it is right now. And you have a lot of really smart people working on it. My company's been working on that. So that's where I would put the focus is let's not try to argue about whether we should or shouldn't do it. It's going to happen. So let's make it as safe as it can be.
Well, I guess you walked right into my next question. What can we do about AI safety? What's the current state? And more importantly, where do we need to go from here?
I had a background in a prior life. My first job out of grad school was IBM, and I ended up writing a book on software quality. And what I learned was an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If you can design something, it's 10,000, IBM found this, 10,000 times more cost effective to design the code right in the design phase than to try to fix it after you ship. 10,000 times. The same thing with AI. Trying to test in safety after the fact is the wrong approach. It's the best we have. If you don't know how it works, you got to do something, but it's not the right approach. What we need to do is figure out a better architecture, a better way of creating the systems that is not so black boxy, where we have more transparency into how it works. And then you can design it way back in the design stage to be safe and then you can just test to verify that it is in fact safe. And I think you can actually have a different kind of architecture where you can have many different AI agents. And we can talk more about this because it's a little bit of a complicated answer, but there's ways to get human values into lots of agents in a democratic way so that they serve, just like in our democracy, as checks and balances on each other. And to me, that will be a much safer approach.
Does the US government and the Chinese government effectively, in theory, they have an unlimited budget. They could kind of do what they want. What's to stop them from having more powerful programs than some of the public companies that we noted?
I am a little bit optimistic, partly because I see what's happening at companies like Meta and IBM that are leading something called the AI Alliance. And this is a movement to make AI open source. Now, there's a big debate in the research community about whether advanced AI should be kept very tightly closed and closed source because it's so dangerous and you don't want to put it out into lots of people's hands. I tend to agree with Jan LeCun, who's the chief research scientist over at Meta, and some of the folks at IBM as well, who basically are saying, look, it's safer if we have it democratic and we have lots of access to AI technology, and we'll get checks and balances, and we'll develop a healthy ecosystem without one party, having all the power.
We're beginning to hear about artificial general intelligence, AGI, in connection with some new high-profile acquisitions. What is AGI, and do you have any comments?
So AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence. And the basic idea is that we can kind of get this very high level of intelligence across any cognitive task, any kind of intellectual thing that humans can do. And for many years, that's been sort of the holy grail of AI research. And my company, IQ Company, has been focused on it, from the beginning. And I believe that the architecture or the way to design that is to take AI agents, which more and more people are now realizing, and create a way for them to interact, collective intelligence. And I've spent many, many years, decades, designing collective intelligence systems to do things like get an edge in the stock market. So if you have AI agents that are in a collective intelligence system, if you design that properly, you will not only be able to have rules where you understand how the system works, which would make it safer, but you will also have a much more powerful system than any one of those agents by itself. That's where I think the field is going. These acquisitions are the kind of beginning indications that the large tech companies are beginning to see that.
Recently, in June of this year, 2024, Ilya Sutskever, the brains behind OpenAI, left to start a new company. Can you explain what superintelligence is, or yet again, or add to it, and why we're kind of hearing about it now?
Yes. So superintelligence. So Ilya, really smart AI researcher, studied under Jeff Hinton, was a collaborator of Jeff Hinton, was at Google, then was one of the founders of OpenAI, and then has now left to start his own company. I think technically the name is SafeSuperintelligenceInc.com. And part of the reason for that is my company owns Superintelligence. So we own Superintelligence.com back in 2006. That's how long we've been working on this. And I guess 2014, so sort of 8 years after we started working on it, Nick Bostrom, famous researcher, I think out of Oxford, came out with a book that kind of put superintelligence on the map. The name of the book was Superintelligence, and Elon Musk and Bill Gates and a lot of tech leaders read it and started recommending this is the new thing that's coming. So that was 2014. And then just a month or two ago, I think in June, we have Ilya now starting this company. So that is that evolution that is happening, where you see that AI is going to become more and more powerful. And if you can get it general, then you can have super intelligent AI, can do everything a human can, but like 1,000 times better or 10,000 times better. I mean, we're talking about something that is autonomous and can set its own goals and is 1,000 times or 10,000 times or 1,000,000 times smarter, Angelo, than you or I. And so even though we're pretty smart and we might be very good in our areas, this will be way smarter than us. I think in the long, long term, humans have unique value in providing values that guide these systems, because there is no rational way to derive values. You can go all the way back to David Hume or Herbert Simon, who co-founded the field of AI. They both said it. Just like we don't need to know how our car works to drive, we don't necessarily need to know how every little bit of these very advanced AI systems are going to operate. If we know that they have our best interests at heart and they're aligned with human values, then that's going to be good. It's going to be really good.
So you're working on designs for safe superintelligence. What can you tell us about your approach, and how does it differ from others in terms of what you're doing?
Imagine a network of millions of AI agents and millions of humans, and you put a question into that network and it can give you a super intelligent response out. Anything that the AIs are not able to do in the beginning, the humans can fill in, the AIs can learn from the humans, and the next time that question comes, now the AIs learned how to do it. So they're learning from the humans in this approach, which I call a collective intelligence approach, and which we've got the equivalent of 84 normal-sized patents worth of designs for this now. This approach not only scales, but very, very importantly, it's safe because you can understand how the system works at that entity level. You know the rules for one entity interacting with another entity. You know how the system as a whole made its decisions. It's very transparent. It's auditable. It's predictable. It's trustworthy. And it's smarter than anything that we have now. And it will learn the human values. So it kind of was basically a design that came from recognizing we need the most powerful system, most powerful and profitable system, because that is what's driving Silicon Valley and driving the field. Safety and power and profitability are aligned. They don't have to be separate, but you have to design it that way.
And Craig, which technology companies are best positioned to develop superintelligence according to the approach that you outlined?
So I really like what Meta and IBM are doing, and there's, I think, 80 other partners in the OpenAI Alliance, because they've taken, and by the way, Microsoft also has indicated they're going down this path as well. So I'm hopeful that this will be the path that almost everybody ends up going down, where you have open models. So you have access to the AIs, not in the hands of a very few people, but sort of put out their open source code. And many, many millions of developers and millions of users can customize these agents using an open framework, like the AI Alliance is sort of going down that path with Meta and IBM leading the charge. So they're well positioned. And I think that's the best approach. That'll be democratic AI, where you have checks and balances, and one agent has Angelo's values, one agent has Craig's values, one agent has Ray Kurzweil's values, and all those values are in the mix, and they can argue it out. And overall, just as a democracy, it's a messy process, but so far it seems better than most of the other dictatorial things, where you're really taking a chance. If you have the wrong concentration of power, it ends up bad for everybody. So I see that approach as being a good one. And in terms of pragmatic things, which companies are positioned, it goes back to what do you need to have? So you need a lot of data. So who's got a lot of data? Meta has a ton of data. Google has a ton of data. Amazon has a lot of data. So data is going to be very important. Microsoft has a lot of data. And in particular, Microsoft has LinkedIn. So if you wanted agents and you wanted some human agents in there, or you just wanted data from users to train your AI, wouldn't it be great to tap the brains of all those professionals on LinkedIn? I mean, that's a more elite type of user than maybe you would find on Instagram or something. So you could sort of, for the investors listening, if you're trying to figure out how do I analyze this, think of the large companies, think who has data, and then think who has the quality type of data. Because what's going to happen is right now, most of the AIs are trained on sort of commodity, everything on the internet filtered a little bit. And you're going to get mediocre performance, which is what you have with GPT. It makes a lot of mistakes, but boy, does it go fast, and it can cover any subject, but it's not so great because we don't have Angelo's brain on there, and we don't have Craig's brain, and we don't have the people on this conference. But if there was a way to sort of tap the elite experts in different fields and get their knowledge to train the AI, well, that intelligence will go to the next level. So which companies are well positioned to do that sort of thing?
Are you open to working with these large technology companies?
Absolutely. My mission here is let's implement the safest approach during this limited window that humanity has as quickly as possible. And it will be impossible not to make money at the same time because this is, there's just so much opportunity here. So I think really it's important to find someone who's committed to that open and safe approach first, and then also has the resources to scale. And then, yeah, the piece that my company has is we have the designs. We've been thinking about it for a long time, but we don't have all that data. We don't have all that computational resource. So
well, then that maybe brings up my next question, Craig. I guess I was going to state why they need you for that. These are among the world's largest companies on earth. So it's a combination of your designs, your patents, and an opportunity for one of them to potentially get an edge. And those are companies that are buying other companies, like you noted with Amazon and others.
Yeah, I think it's just a buy versus build. I fully believe that there's a lot of smart people in the world, and given it enough time, people can come to the same solution. But this is a race. And I think the reason that, you have Microsoft buying Inflection and Amazon buying Adept and getting the talent is because they realize that time is so valuable. It's much more efficient for them to acquire the talent. And if you have the designs, even better. And then they could get ahead. The current time frame for Superintelligence, like Ilya and others that are the most advanced guys, I mean, people are sort of saying 2-3 years at the earliest, we could maybe get there. And probably most researchers would say it would take longer to really have it. And I'm saying I got the designs now. So if you have a 2-year advantage, that's like huge for these guys.
If people want to learn about AI safety, AGI, and kind of your company's designs for safe superintelligence, where can they go?
So you can go to IQ Company's website, which is iqco.com. Or if it's easier to remember, you could just put in superintelligence.com because we own that domain. It'll send you to the same place. There's a bunch of publications, white papers. There's brief abstracts of patents if you want to read about the patents that we've done. And there's a whole lot of videos that are just 3 minutes long as well. So yes, it's going to be an exciting new world. Angela, this has been really a wonderful, wonderful interview and great to see you again. So thank you for having me on.
Pleasure. Thank you.